Hello everyone! Today I'm doing something a bit different. This video is actually a response, an answer to an invitation issued by Sarah from the Costume Codex channel. By the way, if you're not subscribed to Sarah, you should change that. She makes fantastic videos. Anyway, she had this great idea that YouTubers could spread a little positivity by sharing a scene in any piece of media that gives them hope. As someone who semi-regularly tries to spread some warm fuzzies about, I was instantly very intrigued by this idea. But of course, questions then arose. How would I find the time? What scene would I pick? How could I possibly just pick one? The idea was so tantalizing, and I felt like I had no recourse to actually see it through. So I put the idea to the back of my mind and just kept living my messy little life. And then one day, it hit me. Another idea for a video that has been sort of rolling around the back of my head since basically the start of this channel is to talk about a show I really enjoy called You're the Worst. You're the Worst is an American sitcom that fits into that realm of embracing the characters being messy, terrible people. Kind of along the lines of like a Seinfeld or an Always Sunny in Philadelphia, though with a lot more overarching plot and like character development. The main characters are a publicity rep who lies, steals, and cheats while actively avoiding any real intimacy, and a British writer who lies, steals, and cheats while actively avoiding any real intimacy. Their best friends are a veteran with PTSD and a history of addiction, and Lindsay. I love Lindsay.
My body, my choice.
Stop saying that!
No, Paul, you stop. Me and my sisters, we fought for this right for millenniums. This is why Margaret Thatcher went to prison.
The show takes place in LA and focuses on the relationship that develops between these two horrible people. We see their fights, their flights, and their fucks. It's a great show that I have many feelings about. But how could I possibly justify talking about it here? I don't want to just make content for the sake of making content. And I do want my videos to feel like they have a focus, even in the ones where I admittedly do go off the rails a little bit. So when the idea hit me that I could solve both of these video essay related problems by combining them, I was instantly inspired and so excited to get started. Now, I know what you must be thinking. On the surface, the way I just described the show does not make it seem like the kind of thing you would derive any hope from. I mean, these are self-aware assholes who basically, on a regular basis, ruin the lives of people around them with their nihilistic and self-centered way of living their lives. They mostly avoid taking responsibility or addressing their behaviors in any meaningful way. And yet, here I am. So thank you to Sarah so much for this fantastic idea and for helping me solve my own little quandary. Hopefully you enjoy what you see, even if it's not exactly what you were expecting. You're the Worst has a bit of a cult following, so in order to discuss the scene in question, I will have to provide some context so that you better understand what I'm talking about, since most of you here probably haven't seen the show. With that said, I am challenging myself to keep this one on the shorter side, so there is plenty that I will not be discussing in this video. Some spoilers are definitely unavoidable, but I will be making sure to keep plenty of major plot points out of this video. You're the Worst follows a relationship between Jimmy, a tall, angry British sausage, and Gretchen, a ginger-haired void of emotional turbulence. We see them first meet in the pilot episode and decide to start dating, despite them both claiming they don't believe in romantic love. In the course of the relationship and the show, we see them face a host of difficult challenges, made all the more difficult by the fact that they are both emotionally stunted people. Both of them come from families that made them feel unseen and misunderstood, and thus now deal with most of their problems by either lying, running away, or making pretty poor decisions. Arguably, part of the appeal of You're the Worst is the way that it has dealt with the subject of mental illness, particularly PTSD and depression. As someone who has dealt a lot in particular with column B, I have to be honest with you that it is sometimes very difficult for me to watch the show, especially season 2. In fact, sometimes during depressive episodes, I actually have been known to binge watch the entirety of season 2 because there's just something really validating about seeing my own experiences and feelings being reflected back at me on a giant screen while I curl up on my side and cry a lot. But that's not what I'm going to focus in on for this video. Possibly in the future, I'll talk about that. Instead, let's talk about the scene in question, the one that I derive hope from. It comes toward the end of season 3, episode 12, called You knew it was a snake. The episode features our main couple, as well as 2 other couples on the show, having fights about their relationships. Some of the points brought up in these fights, by the way, are just a little too real.
I was there first!
Where?
Here, in shit, miserable. There just isn't room for you to be broken right now, too!
Now, I can't explain everything that's happening in the scene because basically I'd have to stop and explain about 3 seasons worth of plot and a ton of backstory for you to understand. Suffice it to say, all 3 of these couples have come to a crossroads in their relationships, the kind that can make or break even the most loving and dedicated of relationships. During Gretchen and Jimmy's fight, they reach a point where they acknowledge that the challenges of the relationship feel too great to overcome, reaching a climax when Gretchen says,
I think this may be impossible.
and then they just sit there in silence, the weight of those words hanging above them. They have both just acknowledged the likelihood that one day they will break up. Maybe not tonight, but definitely in the future. Their relationship is going to end. And it makes sense, doesn't it? You're the Worst often, not just in this episode, but including it obviously, acknowledges that romantic relationships typically do end. They end in breakups or some kind of separation. Most people don't end up with the person or persons they're meant to be when they first try dating. They experience heartbreak, bad actors, and shitty dating apps. There are some people who will never experience it at all. Some because they just don't feel that way, and some because maybe they'll just never find it. And the way that our culture typically deals with these kind of relationships that don't end with a baby, a marriage, and a white picket fence is to call them failures. Something even I, as a polyamorous who makes a big talk about trying to not have expectations and to try and do things uncoupled from the typical norm, can still sometimes fall into. Despite my best efforts, I have internalized the idea that a relationship that ends is a sign of some kind of brokenness, whether in myself or in the other person. That our relationship ending means that we wasted our time that could have been spent with the right person. In this scene in You're the Worst, with the weight of this potential failure weighing heavy on our main character's shoulders, I'm reminded of the many times in the past where I've reached this point in relationships. And I've had to end things with a person that I was with, even when a lack of love or care wasn't the issue. I've broken up with people who wanted kids or who didn't want to be polyamorous. I actually had to de-escalate a relationship with a person that I care very much for earlier this year because we can't be in each other's lives in the manner that I wanted or to maintain the kind of dynamic that we had set up. And I want to make it clear, me and this person, we're still in each other's lives. We still care about each other very deeply. We're still partners of a sense. We're just more of a common relationship, which basically means that until we can be in the same zip code, our relationship is essentially on pause, which kind of tricky because we don't really know what that's going to be. There's no date and time. So yeah, it's tricky. And honestly, it hurt. It still hurts. It hurts that I can't have a person that I love in my life on a daily basis. Despite my best efforts, it does sometimes feel like a failure, and I struggle sometimes and start finding myself feeling like I was really stupid for ever thinking I could have made this relationship work in the first place. But the scene doesn't end there. As the silence stretches on, unbearably so, Jimmy finally interrupts by saying,
But can't that be okay? I mean, the vast majority of all human effort, however great or minuscule, ends in failure. So what are your options? You just admit pre-defeat because the odds are that you're going to be right? Or you do it anyway?
This scene gives me hope because our main characters realize that regardless of whether or not they stay together, their time together did mean something. It was still important. They stay together because they want to, and they're going to keep doing that until they don't. Gretchen and Jimmy's relationship goes through a lot after this episode, like a lot. Like, I can't even begin to tell you all of the ups and downs they go through. But I think one of the reasons why I love this show so much is that from this point on, whenever Gretchen and Jimmy are together, they are because they choose to be. They recognize the impossible odds of success, or at least the narrowly socially defined version of it anyway, and they just choose to move forward anyway. I'll admit, lately my little romantic heart has been struggling quite a bit. Both of my partners live far away, and one of them I hear from extremely infrequently. My life has become so busy and wild that meeting a new, hopefully local partner seems a little bit out of the cards right now. There are existing connections that I wish I could develop further, but time and distance and just the way fucking life is right now has made that almost impossible. It's hard not to feel like a failure when my romantic life doesn't resemble what has been societally decided as the successful norm, that which I'm supposed to aspire to. Watching this scene is a reminder to myself that a relationship can be far from aspirational, far from what the typically defined norm is, and still have value. Maybe I'll never have a relationship that ends with a walk down the aisle or a shared mortgage. Maybe one day myself and my current partners will decide to break up. But in the meantime, I choose to be in relationships with the people that I'm with in the manner that makes sense for us. There is a very real statistical likelihood that we will break up one day. But when and if that happens, what we had will not have been a failure. It will still have meant something. Something beautiful, maybe even more so due to its briefness. The scene in You're the Worst gives me hope. What about you? All right, everyone, that's this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, big shout out to Sarah for issuing this little challenge. It's really cool to be making a video about this with other fantastic creators like Foreign Man and Foreign Land, I think, did one, and so did Jesse Gender. Like, pretty cool company to keep. Really big shout out to Sarah. Thank you so much for coming up with this idea. This was a really fun project, and it was really cool to finally have an excuse to talk about You're the Worst here. So thank you very much. If you're new to this channel, maybe give me a little like and a subscribe down below. Tell me in the comments down below, have you watched You're the Worst? And is there a scene in particular that gives you hope? If so, tell me about it down below. Or maybe if you're also a content creator, you can make your own video. I'm pretty sure if you message Sarah with a video, she will end up adding you into the playlist where all the other videos that are sort of a response to this little challenge that she put out there are. So in theory, I'm in a playlist right now, and you can watch a bunch of other videos about this, or you can contribute yourself. You should do it. This was a lot of fun. I don't know why I'm thumbs upping so much right now. Thumbs up, bisexual activated. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. This video is brought to you by all of my Patreon supporters over on patreon.com/mainlymandy, but a special thank you to Angela Ward, Adam Fellows, Austin Tallman, Bailey Grevlin, Beat Duck, Kaylin Conrad, David Lindes, Elizabeth Hammond, Harker the Storyteller, Haley Williams, Jeffrey Reynolds, Jennifer Mayer, Kevin Cook, Non-Anana Mouse, Faye Briscoe, Thea Westfall, Polyamethyst, Sidekick, Sicknin, and Veronica Duff.